So this is what we're making, an adjustable leaf bangle, slightly anti-clastic. The material I'm using for my leaf-shaped bangle is sterling 0.7 thick. Now this was 210 millimeters long for a 66 millimeter inside diameter bangle, and I knew I needed it longer so that it would overlap. So I annealed it and rolled it down, and it is now 0.6, and you can see how much longer it is. It is roughly 30 millimeters longer. So that gives me a decent overlap so that I can do my little squirrel stem, overlap it, and solder it on. So the first thing we need to do, or the second thing, actually the first thing was to anneal it. The next thing is to fold it in the middle. Now I have just a piece of timber that I cut a groove in, so you can see it's just a V shape. You could just do it with a handsaw. I did it with a router just because I have one, but a handsaw just at about a 30-degree angle, and this is about 15 millimeters deep is all, and it's just so that I can form this into a V without damaging either the outside or the inside. Now I'm going to use a plastic tapered hammer. And we're just going to tap it until it's about a 90-degree bend. Try to get it as even side to side as possible. If you have a friend that's a sheet metal worker, he would have what they call a brake, and it's to perfectly fold metal. Very few of us have access to a brake. So you can see that we've got a good start. Now I'm going to use my rawhide hammer to hammer this, and just like that. Take your time, because it would be nice if you got your edges perfectly together. It usually doesn't happen, and it's not a drama if it doesn't. But you can usually get it pretty close just by taking your time. Yeah. And when you get it so that the edges touch, go ahead and hammer it flat. And I usually go to the anvil once I get to that point. But you can see I got it relatively close, and that's nice because when I hammer it for my leaf marks, they'll go all the way through, and it'll just look a little bit better. So now we'll go to the anvil. Now, I'm using my little jeweler's hammer for this, which is polished, slightly rounded, like a planishing hammer on this side. And it's a cross pane with a fairly sharp end on this side. So the first thing we'll do is hammer it flat. Go all the way down. And now I'm going to use the sharp end on an angle. Go all the way down, then flip it over and match those marks on the other side. Make sure they go the same angle. And it's easily done because you can see it imprints all the way through. So now, with my marks going down like this from the folded edge, I'm going to cut a little bit of a stem, about 2 millimeters wide and about 20 millimeters long, and then I'll slightly curve the top of the leaf, and then down here, for about 20 millimeters or 30 millimeters, I'll cut a taper. And once again, it's from the folded edge. If you cut from the other side, when you open it, you'll have like a swallowtail. So always work from the folded edge. I'm not even going to mark it out because it's just a fairly long taper. Like that. So that's my taper, and on the other end it's just my stem. So once again, from the folded side, another new blade, and I'm using a 4/0 blade for this. These saws are quite handy because you can put your tightening screw on either side. If you're left-handed, it makes it easier because you can put these on this side. So once again, and when you get the length that you want, just slowly keep your saw moving up and down and turn it. So now that's our really long leaf, and we'll just take our Swiss number 2 cut flat hand file, tidy up the saw cut, both ends. Now, that may look sharp, but I always make sure that it isn't sharp. So when you get your filing done, 400 grade wet or dry sandpaper on a sanding stick. And I just do the whole edge. Normally you don't need it. And now it's a matter of annealing it and opening it up. Normally I'd put this in my pumice pan, but because I don't have a place to put my camera down there, I'll just do it up here in my charcoal blocks. This is a number 7 tip on my little torch, so I can get a fairly decent sized flame. And we'll just start on one end and work our way down. And I have my tweezers in my hand so I can shift this down as I go. So we just want to bring this up to a dull red. There. And then I just watch it. Make sure it all comes up to a dull red. And if you watch your flame will start to turn orange at the same time the metal is a dull red. That the part that goes over the edge. Lovely. Now I'm just going to let this cool on the bench. I don't want to quench it because it'll fill up with water. And if there's water on the inside, when I put this over my ring mandrel, it'll make the mandrel wet and will make it tend to rust. So we just let this go have a cuppa, let this rest, and come back and we'll open it. Well, it's cool enough to handle, so we'll open it up. We'll start just by using a burnisher. And then I'll just hold it over my ring mandrel and use my rawhide hammer to hammer it open. I'm using my Bonnie Doon horizontal vise. And once I have it started to open, then I just go up on the larger part of the ring mandrel. Comme ça. So I'm just going to put a little curl in my stem using my flat round pliers. And I'm going to just hammer this around my bracelet mandrel. And I want the ridge out. You can do it either way, it doesn't matter. But for this, I want the ridge out. Nice and simple and quick. Now, I'm going to put this on a forming stake and make it slightly anti-clastic just because it's a nicer shape. And then when I get it to the correct size, I'll put it like this and solder it. Or maybe I'll just leave it so it's adjustable. So this is a Bonnie Doon stake 417, and it has a fairly shallow curve, which I think will do nicely. And I'm also using a Bonnie Doon urethane hammer. So I'm just going to go on this on the big one. It'll just be a slight curve. And now I'm just going to put this like this. I want the loop visible, but I'm going to just leave it so it's adjustable. Done. Now, this is adjustable. You could solder this, and I may later, but for now, I'm just going to hole mark it, pickle it, and polish it. So in the pickle, and I'm using sodium bisulfate for pickle. So here we are, fresh out of the tumbler, finished adjustable leaf bangle.